In my past life, I, Emily Sheay, was a fool for love, blinded by a childhood promise that bound my heart to Jason Miller. His company, the Miller Group, teetered on the edge of ruin, its accounts bleeding red, its reputation crumbling under the weight of his reckless decisions. I could have walked away. Jason's sharp-eyed rival, Hudson Ford, had come to me with a proposition: join forces, seize the Miller Group's assets, and carve out a fortune. His offer gleamed with ambition, but I, naive and tethered to a dream of pure love, rejected him without a second thought. Jason needs me, I told Hudson, my voice steady with conviction. I won't betray him. For months, I poured my soul into saving Jason's empire. I leveraged my family's connections, funneled millions from our accounts, and worked sleepless nights negotiating with creditors. The Miller Group stabilized, its stock was climbing, and its future was bright again. Jason's gratitude seemed boundless. "Emily, you're my anchor," he said, his hand warm against mine as we sat in his office, the city skyline glittering beyond the glass. "Once this is over, let's get engaged, you and me, forever." My heart soared, the promise of our shared future a beacon through the chaos. I envisioned a life together, built on trust and the love we'd nurtured since we were children playing in our family's gardens. But that vision shattered on the day we were to finalize our engagement. Jason asked me to meet him at the Miller Group's headquarters, on the rooftop where we'd once shared quiet dreams. I arrived, my heart light, a ring box tucked in my purse. The wind whipped my hair as I stepped onto the terrace, but Jason's face was not the warm one I knew. His eyes were cold, his jaw tight, and behind him stood Lauren Lynn, her elegant frame draped in silk, her lips curved in a knowing smile. "You thought you could trap me?" Jason spat, his voice laced with venom. "You saved my company to force me into marriage, didn't you? I'll never love you, Emily. Lauren is my heart." Confusion choked me. "Jason, I saved you because I love you," I stammered, my voice breaking. "I never wanted anything but us." He laughed, a cruel sound that cut deeper than any blade. "Love? You're a scheming opportunist. Lauren told me everything, your plans to control me, to leech off my success." Lauren's gaze flickered triumphantly, and I realized she'd poisoned him against me, twisting my devotion into a lie. Before I could speak, Jason's hands gripped my shoulders, shoving me toward the edge. "This ends now," he snarled. I stumbled, the low railing catching my waist, and with one final push, he sent me plummeting. The fall was endless, the city blurring into streaks of light and shadow. My body struck the pavement, bones splintering, blood pooling beneath me. Pain seared through every nerve, but worse was the betrayal, a knife twisting in my heart. As my vision dimmed, I saw Jason descend in the elevator, his arm around Lauren, their laughter faint but piercing. He didn't even glance at my broken form. His assistant's voice carried on the wind. "Call the police." Emily Sheay embezzled funds and jumped out of guilt. The lie was his final blow, framing me to protect his image, to bury my sacrifice in disgrace. My last breath rattled out, and darkness swallowed me. But then, a miracle, or perhaps a curse, intervened. A searing light, radiant and otherworldly, enveloped my soul. It pulsed with an ancient power, neither divine nor demonic, but vast, as if the universe had taken pity on my shattered dreams. Voices whispered, formless yet resonant, "You are not done. Rewrite your fate." The light surged, and I awoke with a gasp, my body whole, my heart pounding. I was back in my office, the calendar reading the day of the Miller Group's crisis, months before my death. Papers littered my desk, Hudson's offer letter among them. I touched my face, my hands trembling, and realized I'd been reborn, granted a second chance by forces beyond comprehension. Tears stung my eyes, not from joy, but from rage. The memory of Jason's betrayal burned fresh, Lauren's smirk a brand on my soul. My love for Jason, once a guiding star, had curdled into a furnace of vengeance. I would not save him this time. I would destroy him, strip him of everything, his company, his pride, his future. My family, who'd mourned my death in that other life, deserved better than a daughter who'd thrown herself away for a traitor. And I deserved a life unchained from his lies. As I stared at Hudson's letter, a plan took shape. I would play the game differently this time, with a heart forged in fire and a mind sharpened by pain. Jason Miller would pay, and I would rise. The morning of my rebirth was sharp with possibility, the air in my office crackling with the weight of my second chance. My desk, cluttered with financial reports and creditor demands, bore the same chaos as in my past life. But my heart was no longer a slave to Jason Miller's promises. His betrayal, his hands shoving me to my death, Lauren's triumphant smirk, played in my mind like a looped reel, fueling a resolve as hard as steel. Yet beneath the rage, a pang of sorrow lingered for the girl I'd been, the one who'd loved Jason with every fiber of her soul. I pushed it down, letting vengeance steady my trembling hands as I reached for Hudson Ford's letter. Hudson's offer was unchanged. Partner with him to dismantle the Miller Group, seize its assets, and split the spoils. In my past life, I'd torn the letter to shreds, loyal to a man who'd repay me with a rooftop plunge. Now I traced the words with a finger, a smile curling my lips. Hudson Ford was no stranger. We'd crossed paths in high school, where he'd been the golden boy. Charismatic, brilliant, born to a rival dynasty that dwarfed the Millers' fading wealth. Jason, always second to Hudson's spotlight, seethed with envy, spreading whispers of Hudson's arrogance to mask his insecurities. But I'd seen Hudson's truth, a self-made strategist who'd built Ford Enterprises from a single patent, outpacing Jason's inherited empire with sheer grit. His rivalry with Jason wasn't just business, it was personal, rooted in years of Jason's underhanded ploys, from sabotaged projects to stolen clients. I dialed Hudson's number, my voice steady. "Mr. Ford, let's meet. Your proposal interests me." An hour later, I sat across from him in a sleek downtown cafe, its glass walls reflecting the city's pulse. Hudson exuded quiet authority, his tailored suit framing a lean frame, his eyes sharp with calculation. "Miss Sheay," he said, folding his hands, "I didn't expect you to reconsider." "Jason's your childhood friend, isn't he?" His tone held a challenge, probing my motives. I leaned forward, meeting his gaze. "People change, Mr. Ford. Loyalties shift. I'm here because the Miller Group is a sinking ship, and I want a piece of what's left." Hudson's lips twitched, a spark of respect in his eyes. "You're direct. I like that. Jason's mismanagement has bled the company dry. Debts in the hundreds of millions, key clients fleeing. Join me, and we'll carve it up. My tech division can crack their patents. Your family's network can secure the contracts. We'll leave Jason with nothing." His voice carried a hunger I recognized, a mirror to my own. I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "I'm in," I said, "but I want 60% of the assets. The Sheays take risks, and we demand rewards." Hudson raised an eyebrow, then chuckled. "Bold. 55, and we have a deal." We shook hands, sealing a pact that felt like signing Jason's death warrant. As Hudson outlined logistics, my phone buzzed, Jason's name flashing on the screen. I'd have dropped everything in my past life, rushing to his side like a loyal dog. Now I let it ring, a thrill coursing through me. I excused myself, stepping to the cafe's window and typed a message. "Jason, I'm at your company building. Debt collectors have me cornered. It's urgent. Come now." I hit send, imagining his panic, his frantic drive to save me. The lie was a hook, bait to draw him into the chaos of his own making. My phone buzzed again, Jason calling, his desperation palpable even through the silent screen. I declined the call, my heart a mix of cold triumph and a faint, aching echo of the love I'd once felt. Could I truly destroy him? The memory of my shattered body answered yes. Returning to the table, I caught Hudson's curious glance. "Trouble?" he asked, nodding at my phone. I smirked, sliding it into my purse. "Just setting the stage, Mr. Ford. Jason's about to learn how it feels to be betrayed." Hudson's eyes gleamed, and I winked, a silent promise of the havoc we'd unleash. "To a successful partnership," I said, raising my coffee cup. He mirrored the gesture, his smile sharp as a blade. "To Jason's ruin," he replied. As we clinked cups, I felt the gears of my plan lock into place. Jason had pushed me to my death, but I was reborn, and this time, I'd be the one to make him fall into the abyss. Outside, the city hummed, unaware of the storm brewing. My alliance with Hudson was more than a business deal, a weapon forged in the fire of my past pain. Jason's frantic calls kept coming, each a reminder of his weakness and reliance on the loyalty I'd once given freely. I silenced my phone, the weight of my rebirth settling over me. The cosmic light that had brought me back hadn't just saved me, it had armed me. For my family, for the girl I'd been, and for the woman I was becoming, I would tear down Jason's world, brick by brick, and build my own on its ruins. The city's pulse thrummed as I drove toward the Miller Group's headquarters, the skyline a jagged reminder of the rooftop where Jason had ended my past life. My alliance with Hudson Ford was sealed, a blade poised to carve through Jason's empire, but the next step required precision. I'd baited Jason with a text claiming debt collectors had cornered me at his building, a lie to lure him into the heart of his company's collapse. My phone buzzed relentlessly, Jason's name flashing like a distress signal. Each unanswered call tightened the coil of my resolve, yet a shadow of my old self stirred, whispering of the boy I'd loved, the one who'd once bandaged my scraped knee in our childhood garden. I gripped the steering wheel, the memory of my shattered body on the pavement drowning out that whisper. Love had no place here, only justice. I parked a block from the Miller Group's tower, its glass facade gleaming deceptively, masking the chaos within. Debt collectors and bank officers swarmed the entrance, their shouts blending with the honks of gridlocked traffic. Reporters hovered like vultures, cameras flashing, eager for the scoop on the Miller Group's downfall. Jason was trapped inside, his empire crumbling under his incompetence. In my past life, I'd have stormed through that crowd, a knight in shining armor, ready to save him with my family's wealth. I leaned against my car, watching the spectacle with a detachment that felt both foreign and liberating. My phone rang again, Jason's voice breaking through when I finally answered. "Emily, where are you? I got your message. Debt collectors, are you okay?" His words trembled, laced with panic, a far cry from the cold sneer he'd worn as he pushed me to my death. I closed my eyes, the memory vivid, his hands on my shoulders, Lauren's smirk, the wind roaring as I fell. "I'm here, Jason," I said, my voice calm, almost serene outside your building. "But there's a crowd, too many people, I can't get in." His breath hitched, desperation spilling over. "Emily, please, they're everywhere, creditors, reporters, I can't get out, you've got to help me." A cruel impulse surged, sharpened by the echo of his betrayal. I said I should jump from the top floor. I saw words slipping out like poison. It might solve the company's crisis. Silence stretched, heavy and electric. "What?" he choked, shock lacing his tone. "Emily, this isn't funny." But I wasn't laughing. The rooftop loomed in my mind, where he'd chosen Lauren over me and framed me for his failures. My suggestion wasn't a joke. It was a mirror reflecting his cruelty back at him. Yet, as I spoke, a flicker of doubt pierced my armor. Was I becoming as heartless as he'd been? The thought stung, but I shoved it aside. He'd earned this. I said, "Figure it out, Jason." My voice steady despite the turmoil. "You're the CEO. Find your way." I hung up, my heart pounding, a mix of triumph and unease swirling in my chest. The girl who'd loved Jason would have crumbled at his plea, but the woman I'd become, reborn in that cosmic light, knew better. Still, the weight of my transformation pressed on me. Vengeance was righteous, but it demanded a piece of my soul, a sacrifice I hadn't fully reckoned with. I glanced at the tower, imagining Jason pacing his office, sweat beading on his brow and feeling grim satisfaction. He was tasting fear now, just as I had in those final, plummeting seconds. The crowd grew louder, a creditor shouting about unpaid loans, a reporter yelling for a statement. The Miller Group's collapse wasn't just Jason's failure. It was a seismic event that threatened thousands of jobs and shook investor confidence across the city. My actions, aligned with Hudson, would ripple beyond Jason, affecting workers and markets. The thought sobered me, but I steeled myself. To save my family's legacy, to honor the pain of my past life, I had to see this through. Jason had squandered his chance at redemption. I wouldn't squander mine. I slid back into my car, and the engine's hum grounded me. My phone buzzed with a text from Hudson. "Update?" I typed a quick reply. "Jason's trapped. Stage set. Next move tomorrow." As I drove away, the tower shrank in my rearview mirror, a monolith of Jason's hubris. The city's chaos faded, but my resolve burned brighter. I'd ignited the spark of his downfall, and with Hudson's cunning and my family's strength, I'd fan it into a blaze. Yet, as I merged into traffic, a quiet question lingered. Would this path heal me, or merely replace one scar with another? For now, I let vengeance guide me, its fire a beacon in the dark. The city's neon glow cast long shadows as I drove away from the Miller Group's chaos, Jason's desperate plea echoing in my mind. My suggestion that he jump from the rooftop had been a blade, sharp and deliberate, but it wasn't enough. To dismantle his empire, I needed to wound him physically, emotionally, and irrevocably. My rebirth had given me a second chance, but it also demanded I shed the last traces of the girl who'd loved him. That girl would have wept at his panic. The woman I'd become planned a car crash, precise and punishing. Yet, as I merged onto the highway, a knot of guilt tightened in my chest. Was I crossing a line, becoming the monster he'd been? The memory of my body breaking on the pavement silenced that doubt. Jason deserved pain, and I would deliver it. I'd studied the Miller Group's logistics and knew Jason's habits. He'd flee the debt collectors through the underground garage, desperate to reach me, his supposed savior. I coordinated with a discreet contact, a driver skilled in accidents that left no trace of intent. The plan was simple: a collision at the intersection near the garage, timed to catch Jason's car, injuring him just enough to trap him in a hospital bed, vulnerable and exposed. I waited in a nearby lot, my phone buzzing with Hudson's update. Miller Group stock plummeting, creditors circling, keep him distracted. I replied, "He will be." My heart raced, not with fear, but with a cold thrill. This was justice, not cruelty, or so I told myself. I drove to the intersection at dusk, positioning my car to block Jason's escape route. His black sedan screeched from the garage, his face pale behind the wheel. My contact's van loomed, timing perfect, and with a sickening crunch it rammed Jason's passenger side. Airbags deployed, glass shattered, and Jason slumped, dazed but alive. I stepped out, feigning shock for onlookers, and called emergency services, my voice trembling with practiced panic. "There's been an accident! Please hurry!" Paramedics arrived, whisking Jason to the hospital, and I followed, my expression a mask of concern. Inside, guilt flickered again. Had I gone too far? But Lauren's smirk in my past life, Jason's cold accusation of my scheming, snuffed out that spark. He'd survive, but he'd suffer. In the hospital, Jason lay in a sterile room, a concussion and bruises his only wounds. His eyes lit up when I entered, grasping my hand with a weak smile. "Emily, thank God you're here. It was an accident. You don't blame yourself, do you?" His tone dripped with calculated warmth, and I saw the truth. He was playing me, angling for my family's wealth to save his crumbling empire. In my past life, I'd have melted, but now I saw his lies as clearly as the IV drip beside him. "I'm glad you're okay," I said, my voice soft, my smile a trap. Then I pulled out my phone, revealing a call I'd made before arriving at Lauren Lynn. The door swung open, and Lauren glided in, her white dress flowing, her face a mix of worry and suspicion. Jason's hand jerked from mine, his eyes darting between us. "Lauren? Why are you here?" he stammered. I leaned back, folding my arms. "I called her. Your phone was smashed in the crash, so I used mine. I found her your top contact, but I thought she'd want to know." Lauren's gaze locked on our briefly clasped hands, her lips tightening. "Jason, you said you needed me," she said, voice sharp. "But here you are, cozying up to her?" Jason's face flushed, his charm unraveling. "It's not like that, baby. Emily's just a friend, family. I need her. Resources." The word resources hung heavy, exposing his game. My parents, who'd arrived quietly, stood in the doorway, their faces etched with concern. They'd loved Jason like a son, but his words stung them, betraying their decades-long bond with the Millers. My mother's eyes met mine, questioning my ruthlessness, while my father whispered, "Emily, he's desperate. Should we help for old time's sake?" I shook my head, my voice low. "He's using us, Dad. Let him fall." Their silence was reluctant agreement, but I felt their pain, a reminder of the family I'd hurt in my past life by chasing Jason's lies. Lauren's voice rose, cutting through. "Resources? So I'm nothing to you?" Jason scrambled, his concussion-addled brain failing him. "Lauren, you're everything, but Emily's family, they can save the company." I seized the moment, standing. "I'll cover your medical bills, Jason. 10,000 should do it." I handed him an IOU, my tone icy. "But that's all you get." Lauren's eyes blazed, and Jason's mouth opened, but no words came. I walked out, my parents trailing, their footsteps heavy with unspoken grief. Outside, I exhaled, the crash's adrenaline fading, replaced by a steely calm. Jason was cornered, his true colors exposed, and my family's trust in me was intact. The game was mine to play. The hospital confrontation had left Jason exposed, his desperation laid bare before Lauren and my parents. But I knew he wouldn't surrender. His empire, the Miller Group, was a sinking ship, yet he clung to it, blind to the leaks I'd widened with Hudson Ford's help. My orchestrated car crash had wounded him, but to truly break him, I needed his company to implode under his own choices. As I drove home, the city's lights blurring past, a flicker of unease stirred. My vengeance was reshaping me, hardening my heart against the boy I'd once loved. Could I live with the person I was becoming? The memory of Jason's betrayal, his hands shoving me off the rooftop, quelled that doubt. I was no longer his savior, I was his reckoning. Jason, cornered by mounting debts and a fractured reputation, made a desperate move. He named Lauren Lynn acting CEO of the Miller Group. The announcement hit the news like a thunderclap. Her elegant face splashed across headlines, dubbed a visionary by naive pundits. In my past life, I'd underestimated Lauren, seeing her only as Jason's mistress. But now I recognized her danger, a charismatic dreamer with no grasp of reality. Dazzled by her beauty and clinging to their shared past, Jason believed she could charm investors and rally employees. I watched from the sidelines, my alliance with Hudson poised to exploit her inevitable failure. My parents, still reeling from Jason's hospital betrayal, called me that night, their voices heavy with worry. My mother, Emily, said this feud is tearing up our family's name. The industry's watching. Be careful. I reassured them, masking my plans, but their concern gnawed at me, a reminder of the collateral damage my revenge might cause. Lauren's tenure began with a flourish, her press conference a spectacle of misplaced confidence. Dressed in a tailored suit, she declared sweeping reforms to revolutionize the Miller Group, abolishing clock-in rules, promising free housing for loyal employees, and granting floating holidays. She proclaimed that she would stay with us through this crisis and reap massive rewards. Employees cheered, seduced by her charisma, but I saw the cracks forming. The company's accounts were drained, and its cash flow was a trickle. Lauren's promises were fairy tales, and I knew the workforce, already demoralized by Jason's mismanagement, would exploit her naivety. Hudson texted me. "She's handing us the keys to the collapse. Ready for phase 2? I replied, "Let her dig the grave. We'll push them in." Within days, Lauren's reforms unraveled. Employees, emboldened by lax rules, arrived late or skipped work, requesting vacation days en masse. A group of mid-level managers, citing her housing pledge, demanded reimbursement for luxury apartments with 5-digit rents. Lauren, stunned, stammered at a staff meeting, her composure cracking. She protested, "This wasn't what I meant," but the damage was done. The finance department was already stretched thin, buckled under the demands, and stalled key projects. Social media buzzed with memes mocking the Miller Group's free-for-all, eroding investor confidence further. The broader industry felt the ripples. Suppliers cut ties, fearing unpaid invoices, and competitors circled, eyeing the company's remaining assets. Thousands of jobs hung in the balance, a weight that pressed on me, though I buried it beneath my mission. Jason, still recovering, raged from his hospital bed, his calls to Lauren laced with fury. I intercepted one through a hacked line Hudson had arranged, hearing his voice crack. "You're ruining everything! This was supposed to save us!" Lauren's sobs echoed, her dream of being the company's savior shattered. I felt a pang of pity, not for her, but for the chaos threatening innocent workers. My revenge was surgical, aimed at Jason and Lauren, but its fallout was messy. My parents' warnings echoed, urging caution, and I promised myself I'd mitigate the damage once Jason's empire fell. For now, I let Lauren's folly run its course, each misstep a nail in the Miller Group's coffin. By week's end, the company was a shell, its operations paralyzed. Employees loitered in break rooms, janitors the only ones pretending to work. Once a stage for her grand visions, Lauren's office became a bunker where she hid from angry staff. Discharged from the hospital, Jason stormed into headquarters, his face haggard, and berated Lauren in a public outburst. "You're not a CEO, you're a charity case," he shouted, oblivious to the employees recording it. The video went viral, further tanking the company's stock. I watched it from my office, a grim smile on my lips, but my heart wrestled with the cost. My family's legacy, tied to the Millers through decades of friendship, was at risk of being tainted by this scandal. Yet, as I recalled Lauren's smirk in my past life, her lies that turned Jason against me, I steeled myself. This was their doing, and I was merely the catalyst. Lauren's disastrous stint as acting CEO had left the Miller Group a hollowed-out husk, its employees idle, its stock in freefall. Jason, humiliated by the viral video of his outburst, was a shadow of the man who'd once pushed me to my death in my past life. Yet his desperation only sharpened my resolve. My alliance with Hudson Ford was a ticking bomb, set to detonate Jason's empire, but the next phase required me to infiltrate it. As I sat in my office, reviewing Hudson's latest report on the company's crumbling patents, my phone rang. Jason, his voice raw with defeat. "Emily, I need you. Please join the company. Save us." In my past life, I'd have rushed to his side, blind to his betrayal. Now, I saw an opportunity to wield the knife myself. I hesitated, not out of mercy but to mask my intent. My parents, still shaken by Jason's hospital duplicity and Lauren's chaos, had urged caution. "Emily, the Millers were family once," my father said, his eyes weary. "Helping Jason now could mend old bonds, or ruin our name if this scandal spreads." Their concern weighed on me, a reminder of the pain I'd caused them in my past life, chasing a love that ended in my death. I reassured them, "I'll protect our legacy, Dad. Trust me." But inwardly, I wrestled with the cost of my vengeance. Sabotaging Jason would hurt my family's reputation, tied to the Millers through decades of shared history. Yet, the cosmic light that reborn me demanded justice, and I couldn't turn back. I met Jason at the Miller Group's headquarters, its lobby eerily quiet, janitors sweeping where executives once bustled. Jason, pale and disheveled, clasped my hands. "Emily, you're my last hope. Be vice president. Run operations. I trust you." Once warm with childhood promises, his eyes now glinted with calculation, banking on my family's wealth. I nodded, feigning loyalty. "For our family's sake, I'll do it." He exhaled, relief masking his greed, and I suppressed a smile. He'd handed me the keys to his downfall, unaware I'd used them to lock him out. As vice president, I became the company's pulse, outwardly restoring order while secretly dismantling it. I poached top engineers, funneling them to my Sheay group, and redirected key clients to Hudson's Ford Enterprises. Hudson, driven by a grudge rooted in high school, where Jason had sabotaged his science fair project, costing him a scholarship, proved a ruthless ally. He cracked the Miller Group's core technologies, selling me their blueprints at a discount. Hudson said Jason always thought he was smarter, his voice edged with old wounds. "Let's show him he's nothing." Our late-night calls, encrypted and brief, mapped the company's ruin, each move a step toward Jason's oblivion. Jason, oblivious, embraced a leisurely life, fishing at the reservoir or sipping cocktails at elite clubs, playing the hands-off boss. Employees whispered about his absence, their morale crumbling, but I maintained a facade of diligence, approving budgets and signing contracts that bled the company dry. My parents, monitoring from afar, grew uneasy. "Emily, the industry's talking," my mother warned. "The Miller Group's collapse could drag us down. Are you sure about this?" I lied smoothly. "I'm stabilizing it, Mom. It's under control." But guilt gnawed at me. My actions risked not just Jason's ruin, but the jobs of thousands and my family's trust. The girl I'd been, loyal, selfless, would have balked, but the woman reborn in cosmic fire pressed on, her heart scarred but unyielding. By month's end, the Miller Group was a skeleton, its assets siphoned, its innovations stolen. Hudson's tech breakthroughs flooded the market under Ford Enterprises' name, while my Sheay Group absorbed the Miller Group's best talent. Lost in his fantasy of easy wealth, Jason noticed nothing, his office desk gathering dust. One evening, I stood in that office, staring at a childhood photo of us, Jason grinning, me clutching a daisy he'd picked. A pang of loss hit me, not for him, but for the innocence I'd buried. Could I have saved him in another life? The memory of Lauren's lies, Jason's push, crushed that thought. I was no savior, not anymore. Hudson's text buzzed. "Ready for the final blow?" I replied. "Board meeting next week. Bankruptcy's inevitable." As I left the office, the city's skyline loomed, a testament to the empire I'd helped destroy. My family's legacy hung in the balance, but so did my justice. Jason had built his world on my sacrifice. Now I'd make mine on his ruin, no matter the cost to my soul. The Miller Group's headquarters, once a beacon of corporate might, now stood like a tomb, its corridors silent, its legacy gutted by my covert sabotage and Hudson Ford's relentless strikes. As vice president, I'd stripped the company bare, funneling its talent and assets to my Sheay Group and Hudson's Ford Enterprises. At the same time, Jason Miller, oblivious, basked in a delusion of recovery. The board meeting to declare bankruptcy loomed, a guillotine I'd sharpened with every poached client and stolen patent. Yet, as I prepared my final move, a shadow of doubt crept in. My vengeance had carved a path of destruction, risking my family's reputation and the livelihoods of thousands. The cosmic light that reborn me demanded justice, but at what cost to my soul? Jason's betrayal, his hand shoving me to my death, silenced that question, urging me forward. The boardroom starkly contrasted the chaos outside, where creditors picketed and reporters clamored for the Miller Group's obituary. Shareholders sat grim-faced, their folders thick with debt reports I'd meticulously compiled. Jason stumbled in, reeking of last night's whiskey, a garish lipstick stain on his collar, too bold for Lauren's refined taste. His disheveled state drew sneers, a far cry from the polished CEO I'd once saved in my past life. He caught my eye, flashing a confident grin, as if I'd pull a miracle from my sleeve. "Emily's got this, right?" he slurred, oblivious to the noose tightening. I forced a neutral smile, my heart tangled with triumph and pity for the boy I'd loved, now a wreck of his own. The chairman, a grizzled investor, slid a document toward Jason. "Mr. Miller, sign here. The company is bankrupt. Ford Enterprises will acquire what's left." Jason froze, his grin fading. "Bankrupt? Hudson Ford?" His voice cracked, eyes darting to me, burning with accusation. "Emily, what the hell is going on?" I tossed a stack of financial reports onto the table, their pages detailing debts exceeding hundreds of millions. "I sent you the emails, Jason. You never replied." His face paled, recalling nights spent partying, ignoring my warnings. "But this can't be right," he stammered. "The Sheay family. Your money could cover this." The room stilled, his words a naked plea for my family's wealth. My parents, informed of the meeting, had texted me earlier, their voices heavy with concern. "Emily, the industry's reeling. Our name's tied to this collapse. Don't let it destroy us." Jason's demand stung them, betraying their decades-long bond with the Millers. I met his gaze, my voice ice cold. "My family's money has nothing to do with you." His jaw dropped, sweat beading on his brow. Desperate, he leaned closer, his breath sour. "Marry me, Emily. We'll rebuild together. You've always wanted that, haven't you?" The audacity of his proposal, echoing the childhood dreams he'd shattered, ignited my rage. "I wanted a partner, not a leech," I snapped, standing. "You're nothing, Jason." Before he could retort, the doors swung open, and Hudson Ford strode in, his presence commanding, starkly contrasting Jason's sleaze. Shareholders rose, fawning over their new backer, while Jason slumped, his ego shattered. Hudson's eyes met mine, a subtle nod sealing our victory. "Mr. Miller," he said, voice smooth, "sign, or face prison, for the debts you've racked up." Jason's hand shook, his pride warring with survival. With a resentful scowl, he scrawled his name, surrendering his empire to Hudson. The room buzzed with whispers, the industry already reeling from the news. The Miller Group's collapse sent shockwaves, suppliers went bankrupt, thousands of jobs were lost, and competitors scrambled for scraps. My parents' warning echoed, but I'd planned for this, directing Sheay Group resources to absorb displaced workers, softening the blow. Still, guilt gnawed at me. My vengeance was just, but its fallout was vast, a burden I'd carry. Oblivious to the broader carnage, Jason muttered about starting from nothing, his eyes hollow. He waved at me, pathetic and delusional. "Emily, let's go. We'll figure this out." I stepped back, my voice firm. "You're alone, Jason. I'm done." As I left the boardroom, Hudson was at my side, and Jason's defeated slump burned into my memory. The boy I'd loved was gone, replaced by a husk of greed and failure. My family's legacy teetered, but I'd protect it, just as I'd protect myself from ever loving a traitor again. The bankruptcy was my triumph, but the war wasn't over. Jason's ruin was only the beginning, and I'd see it through, no matter the scars it left. The Miller Group's bankruptcy had stripped Jason Miller of his empire, leaving him a broken figure in a boardroom of vultures. As I walked out with Hudson Ford, the weight of my victory settled over me, tempered by a quiet ache. The cosmic light that had reborn me had forged a path of vengeance, but it hadn't erased the girl who'd once loved Jason, who dreamed of a life with him in our childhood garden. That girl's ghost lingered, whispering of mercy, but the memory of my shattered body on the pavement, Jason's hands, Lauren's smirk, silenced her. I'd dismantled his world, yet he clung to delusions, blind to my resolve. My family's legacy, tied to the Miller's ruin, hung in the balance, and I braced for Jason's next desperate move. Outside the headquarters, the city buzzed with news of the collapse. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions about job losses and market tremors. The Miller Group's fall was a seismic event that shook suppliers and investors. My parents, monitoring from home, texted their concern. "Emily, the industry is blaming us for not saving the Millers. Be careful." Their words stung, a reminder of the pain I'd caused in my past life, chasing Jason's lies. I replied, "I'm protecting us, Mom. Trust me." But guilt gnawed at me. The thousands of jobless workers, the Sheay name tainted by association. I directed resources to rehire some, but the damage was vast, a scar on my vengeance. Jason caught me in the parking lot, his suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot. "Emily, wait!" he called, waving a crumpled rental agreement, as if it were a lifeline. "I got us an apartment. We'll start over, you and me, like we planned." His voice carried a pathetic hope, delusional in its certainty that I'd join him in poverty. In my past life, I'd ignored my parents' pleas, moving into a dingy rental with him, working dawn to dusk while he drained my family's wealth. Now, I laughed, sharp and cold. "Start over? Jason, my family's villa is waiting." "Your bankruptcy isn't my problem." His face twisted, shock giving way to jealousy. "It's Hudson Ford. He's turned you against me." Hudson's name ignited old wounds. In high school, Hudson had been the star. Wealthier, more intelligent, effortlessly charming. While Jason, overshadowed, spread lies to dim his shine. Hudson's rise with Ford Enterprises, built on a single patent he'd patented despite Jason's sabotage, had fueled Jason's envy. "Hudson's always been a snake," Jason spat. "He's using you for your family's power." I stepped closer, my voice low. "And you? You used me for my money, then pushed me to my death. Who's the snake, Jason?" He grabbed my arm, his grip desperate. "I made mistakes, but we're meant to be. You loved me." Rage flared, and I slapped him, the crack echoing in the lot. "I loved a lie," I said, wrenching free. "I'm done with you." Hudson's car idled nearby, and I climbed in, my heart pounding. Hudson, reviewing a contract, glanced up, his eyes softening. "You okay?" he asked, a rare warmth in his voice. I nodded, but his following words caught me off guard. "Ever thought about us beyond this deal?" His high school rivalry with Jason had sharpened his edge, but this was new. A hint of vulnerability, a man who'd built an empire yet sought connection. I smiled, shaking my head. "A lie's a lie, Hudson, no matter how pretty. I'm done standing behind any man. My rebirth had clarified my truth. I wanted a career, my name among the richest, not a wife's silent role." Hudson nodded, respect in his gaze, and started the engine. As we drove off, Jason hobbled after us, a stray dog in the rearview mirror, his shouts lost in the city's hum. The industry reeled from the Miller Group's fall, with layoffs sparking protests and competitors eyeing our assets. My parents' concern lingered, but I'd shield them, redirecting Sheay Group profits to stabilize the market. Yet as Jason's figure faded, a question haunted me. Would my independence heal the scars of my past, or merely mask them? The drive was quiet, Hudson's presence a steady anchor. My vengeance had claimed Jason's empire, but he wasn't finished yet. His desperation would turn darker, and I'd be ready. For my family, the girl I'd been, and the woman I was becoming, I'd forge a legacy untainted by his betrayal, no matter the cost to my heart. Jason Miller's empire lay in ruins, his bankruptcy a public humiliation, but his desperation morphed into venom. My rejection in the parking lot, his delusional plea for us to start over, my slap echoing in the dusk, had shattered his last hope. As I drove away with Hudson Ford, I sensed the storm brewing. The cosmic light that reborn me had armed me for vengeance, but it hadn't prepared me for the ugliness of Jason's counterattack. My heart, hardened by betrayal, still bore scars of the love I'd once felt, and each step of this war tested my resolve. The Miller Group's collapse had shaken the industry, and my family's legacy teetered under the scrutiny. Jason's next move would strike at my core, and I braced for impact. Days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason, its tone menacing. "You'll regret abandoning me. Pay $10 million, or I'll ruin you." I scoffed, replying with one word, scram. True to his spite, Jason turned to the tabloids, unleashing a smear campaign that hit like a tidal wave. Headlines screamed, "Heiress Emily Sheay pregnant, dumps childhood fiancé." Third-rate reporters paid by Jason's dwindling funds spun a tale of betrayal, claiming I'd abandoned our engagement for Hudson Ford's wealth. Jason appeared on camera, tears streaming, clutching a crumpled paper, a childhood marriage pact we'd scribbled at 6 playing house. "Emily promised to marry me," he sobbed, snot bubbling. "I went bankrupt, and she left me for Ford. I saw her bury her child. How can I live with this?" The internet erupted, outrage flooding my Sheay Group's pages. Trolls called me heartless, demanding boycotts, while industry whispers pinned the Miller Group's job losses on my greed. The broader impact was stark. Our stock dipped, suppliers hesitated, and competitors eyed our weakened position. My parents, shaken, called me to their villa, their faces etched with worry. "Emily, are you and Hudson involved?" my mother asked, her voice trembling. "The industry's talking, and this scandal's hurting us." I laughed, though it felt hollow. "Hudson's a partner, nothing more. This is Jason's lie." My father frowned, his hand on mine. "We raised Jason like family. This slander, it's personal. How far will you go?" Their pain cut deep, reminding me of my past life, when my blind love for Jason had broken their hearts. I squeezed his hand. "I'll fix this, Dad. He won't win." The weight of their trust pressed on me, mingling with guilt over the chaos. The thousands of jobs lost in the Miller Group's fall, the market's tremors, my vengeance had sparked a firestorm. Yet Jason's lies, accusing me of pregnancy and murder, reignited my fury. In my past life, he'd framed me for embezzlement as I bled out. Now, he painted me a monster to salvage his pride. I paced my office, the city skyline a stark backdrop, wrestling with my next move. Could I counter his slander without sinking to his level? The girl I'd been would have crumbled, but the woman reborn in cosmic fire stood taller, her resolve a shield. I called Hudson, his voice steady through the line. "Jason's gone rogue. His lies are dragging us both down." Hudson, whose high school rivalry with Jason, marked by stolen projects and bitter envy, fueled his vendetta, chuckled darkly. "He's desperate. I've got evidence. Embezzlement records, employee complaints." "Want me to bury him?" I paused, the industry's stakes flashing before me. A public war could deepen the damage, but silence wasn't an option. "Not yet," I said. "Let's play smart. Dig deeper, but keep it quiet. I'll handle the media." Hudson's silence held respect, a nod to my lead in our pact. I hired a crisis PR firm, crafting a subtle defense. Press releases highlighting Sheay Group's rehiring of Miller Group workers, distancing us from Jason's lies. My parents approved, their relief palpable, but the internet's venom lingered, a test of my endurance. At night, alone, I stared at that childhood pact's photo online, Jason's crocodile tears a mockery of our past. A tear slipped down my cheek, not for him, but for the innocence he'd stolen. My vengeance was just, but its cost was heavy, fraying my family's trust in CE. Yet, as I wiped my face, resolve hardened. Jason's slander was a desperate flail, and I'd turn it against him, with Hudson's evidence as my sword. The city slept, but I didn't, plotting the counterstrike. Jason's lies had lit a fuse, but I'd ensure it burned him, not me. For my family, for the industry I'd stabilize, and for the woman I'd become, I'd fight, no matter the scars. Jason Miller's slander had set the city ablaze, his tabloid lies painting me as a heartless heiress who'd abandoned him for Hudson Ford. The internet's venom stung, boycotts threatening my Sheay Group, but I'd held my ground, plotting with Hudson to turn Jason's attack into his undoing. The cosmic light that reborn me had forged a warrior, but the weight of this war, my family's pain, the industry's chaos, tested my heart. As I stood in my office, the skyline was a stark reminder of the stakes, and a flicker of doubt surfaced. Could I crush Jason without losing myself? His betrayal, pushing me to my death, framing me for his crimes, quelled that fear. I was no longer his victim, I was his judge. Hudson's call came at dawn, his voice calm but lethal. "I've got the ammunition. embezzlement records, employee lawsuits, even whispers about Jason's parents' car accident. Ready to fire. His high school rivalry with Jason, fueled by stolen opportunities and bitter envy, made this personal. I nodded, though he couldn't see. Please do it. Bury him. Hudson didn't waste time. By noon, Ford Enterprises released a meticulously curated exposé, financial audits proving Jason siphoned millions, emails detailing his wage theft, and a leaked police report hinting he'd orchestrated his parents' fatal crash for inheritance money. The internet, once Jason's ally, turned on him like a rabid dog. Hudson's masterstroke was buying testimony. He paid Jason's former secretary to reveal his drunken rants and unpaid overtime mandates. Then came Lauren Lynn, Jason's mistress, her elegance now a veneer for desperation. Hudson's team offered her a lifeline, cash for her story, and she took it, her finances crumbling without Jason's support. In a televised interview, Lauren denounced him, her voice steady. Jason used, lied to me, and ruined the Miller Group with greed. I was blind, but I'm done. Her betrayal was a knife, her new wealthy backer, a shadowy figure in finance, keeping her afloat but not unscathed. Lauren's fall from grace, her designer wardrobe now a facade, closed her arc, a cautionary tale of misplaced loyalty. Social media exploded, and hashtags like #JusticeForEmily were trending. Former Miller Group employees posted, Jason withheld our wages for months. Emily Sheay rehired us when he left us jobless. Another wrote, saw Miss Sheay at a charity event. She's no villain. Jason's a liar. The tide shifted, my Sheay Group's stock rebounding as boycotts fizzled. The industry stabilized, and my rehiring efforts saved thousands of jobs, though competitors still circled, eyeing our vulnerabilities. My parents, watching the news, called, their relief palpable. Emily, you've turned it around, my father said, pride in his voice. But this scandal, it's hurt us all. Are you okay? I swallowed, their love a balm but a reminder of the pain I'd caused. I'm fine, Dad. It's almost over. The victory was sweet, but bittersweet. Alone, I scrolled through the online praise, my heart heavy. The girl I'd been, naive, devoted to Jason, would have mourned his downfall, but the woman I'd become felt only grim satisfaction. My vengeance had cleared my name, but the industry's scars lingered. Suppliers bankrupted, markets wobbling. I'd mitigated some damage, funneling Sheay Group funds to support displaced workers, but the cost of my war was etched in my soul. Jason's lies had accused me of burying a child. In truth, I'd buried my innocence, a sacrifice for justice. My parents' trust, restored, anchored me, yet I wondered if this triumph would heal or haunt me. Hudson's following text was brief. Jason's fleeing. Police are charging him with defamation. I leaned back, the city's hum a distant pulse. Jason's arrest was imminent and his credibility was dust. Lauren's betrayal, her ruin sealed, marked the end of their toxic alliance. The industry watched, my leadership now a beacon. But the fight wasn't over. Jason's desperation would spiral, and I'd be ready, my resolve forged in the fire of my rebirth. I'd see this through for my family, the workers I'd saved, and the woman I'd become, no matter the shadows it cast. Hudson Ford's counterstrike had obliterated Jason Miller's lies, restoring my name while burying him under public scorn. The city's outrage had shifted, social media hailing me as a savior for rehiring Miller Group workers, but the war wasn't over. Jason, arrested for defamation, was a cornered animal, his desperation now a dangerous spark. The cosmic light that reborn me had guided me through vengeance, but its cost weighed heavily, my family's pain, the industry's scars, my hardened heart. As I stood in my office, the skyline was a silent witness, and a flicker of sorrow stirred for the boy I'd once loved. Could I have saved him in another life? The memory of his betrayal, pushing me to my death, snuffed out that thought. I was his reckoning, and his end was near. Post-prison, Jason emerged as a ghost. His wealth was gone, and his connections were severed. The industry, reeling from the Miller Group's collapse, shunned him. Suppliers bankrupt, markets unsteady, thousands jobless despite my efforts to rehire. My parents, once fond of Jason, mourned his fall privately, their texts heavy with regret. He was like a son, my mother wrote. But you're right, Emily, he chose this path. Their acceptance bolstered me, yet guilt lingered. My vengeance had protected our legacy, but it had fractured their memories of happier times. I vowed to shield them from further pain, redirecting Sheay Group profits to stabilize the market, a small atonement for the chaos I'd unleashed. Jason, desperate, turned to shady lenders, borrowing at crippling rates to fund a fantasy of rebuilding. Predictably, he lost everything, his debts spiraling. In a final bid for salvation, he sought Lauren Lynn, hoping her old affection would save him. But Lauren, her elegance a crumbling facade, had moved on. Her new backer, a ruthless financier, kept her in luxury, but her finances were a house of cards, her designer wardrobe masking unpaid bills. When Jason appeared at her penthouse, disheveled and pleading, she sneered, "You're nothing now, Jason. Leave." Her backer's guards beat him, breaking his leg, and tossed him onto the street. Lauren's rejection, her ruin sealed by dependence on another, marked her end as Jason's ally, a bitter echo of her betrayal in my past life. Crippled and bankrupt, Jason limped to a decrepit rental, debt collectors hounding him, enemies closing in. The industry buzzed with his downfall, competitors citing his failure as a cautionary tale. Hearing whispers of his plight, my parents suggested offering him a small apartment, their compassion clashing with my resolve. "He's got legs, broken or not," I said, my voice firm. "Let him face his choices." They nodded, their trust in me unwavering, though their eyes grieved for the boy they'd watched grow. I felt their pain, a reminder of my past life's folly, loving Jason, hurting them. I'd protect them this time, even if it meant hardening my heart further. Cornered, Jason chose oblivion. In his rental, he burned charcoal, and the fumes were a silent exit. Police found him days later, a suicide note on his desk, its scrawl cursing me, Hudson, and Lauren, wishing us misery. The landlord's cleanup was a grim epilogue, the news a footnote in the city's churn. I read the report in my office, the skyline dimmed by rain, and felt no joy, only a hollow release. The boy who'd bandaged my knee was gone long before this, replaced by a traitor who'd framed me as I bled out. My vengeance had claimed him, but its weight pressed on me. Had I avenged the girl I'd been, or merely buried her deeper? The industry moved on, my leadership stabilizing markets, my rehiring efforts lauded. Seeing my resolve, my parents let go of Jason's memory, their love for me a steady anchor. Tethered to her backer, Lauren faded into obscurity, her story warning of greed's cost. Jason's note, his final spite, was dust to me. I'd fought for justice, my family, and the woman reborn in cosmic fire. As I closed the report, a quiet strength settled. His fall was complete, but my rise was beginning, a legacy forged in pain but shining with purpose. Jason Miller's suicide marked the end of his tragic descent. His curse-filled note a final, futile lash against me, Hudson Ford and Lauren Lynn. The news reached me in my office, the city skyline a glittering testament to the empire I'd reclaimed. The cosmic light that reborn me had guided me through a war of vengeance, transforming me from a naive girl into a woman of iron resolve. Yet as I read of Jason's death, a quiet sorrow stirred, not for him, but for the innocence I'd lost, the girl who'd loved him in a garden of daisies. My heart bore scars, but they were badges of survival, proof I'd risen from the ashes of his betrayal. The Miller Group's collapse had shaken the industry, my family's legacy tested, but I stood unbroken, ready to forge a new path. The industry buzzed with the aftermath of Jason's fall. My Sheay Group, holding 60% of the Miller Group's salvaged assets, emerged as a titan, my leadership credited with stabilizing markets and saving thousands of jobs. Headlines praised my rehiring efforts, dubbing me a visionary where they'd once vilified me. Suppliers resumed contracts, and competitors, wary of my strategic prowess, kept their distance. Yet the broader consequences lingered. Bankrupt vendors, displaced workers still struggling, a reminder of my vengeance's cost. I funneled profits into relief funds, a commitment to mend what I'd broken, but the weight of those choices pressed on me. Had I avenged the past, or merely traded one pain for another? My parents welcomed me home to our villa, their faces radiant with pride but etched with lingering grief. They'd mourned Jason, raised as their own, but his betrayal, his hospital lies, his slander, had severed that bond. My father said, "You've protected us, Emily," his hand warm on mine. "But this war, it's changed you. Are you at peace?" His question pierced me, echoing the doubts I'd buried. In my past life, my blind love for Jason had broken their hearts, my death a wound they'd carried. My vengeance restored our name but left shadows in my soul. I hugged them, my voice steady. I'm finding peace, Dad. I'm building something new for us. Their trust anchored me, a beacon through the storm I'd weathered. Hudson Ford, my ally in this crusade, invited me to his office to discuss our partnership's future. His high school rivalry with Jason, marked by stolen projects and bitter envy, had fueled his ruthlessness, but his respect for me shone through. "You've rewritten the game, Emily," he said, his smile genuine. 60% of the Miller Group's yours, and the industry's watching. What's next? His eyes held a flicker of hope, a silent question about us, but I'd already answered that. My rebirth had clarified my desire, a career, my name among the richest, not a wife's silent role. "I'm expanding Sheay Group," I said, "with new tech and new markets. Partners, yes, but I lead." Hudson nodded, his respect unwavering, and we toasted to our success, a partnership of equals, not lovers. The city's pulse thrummed as I stood on my balcony that night, the skyline a canvas of my triumph. Jason's note, cursing my happiness, was ashes in my mind, his memory a ghost I'd laid to rest. Lauren, tethered to her new backer, had faded into obscurity, her ruin a footnote in my victory. My parents, their faith in me restored, no longer spoke of aiding Jason, their love a steady foundation. The industry, once fractured, was healing under my guidance, and my rehiring and investments were a bridge to stability. Yet as I gazed at the stars, I felt the cosmic light's echo, its gift not just vengeance but clarity. I'd fought for justice, for my family, for the girl I'd been, but my actual battle was ahead, building a legacy untainted by betrayal. I turned from the balcony, my office desk strewn with plans. New ventures, global expansions, my name a beacon for ambition. The scars of my past, Jason's push, Lauren's lies, were part of me, but they no longer defined me. The woman reborn in cosmic fire was free, her heart fierce, her future boundless. As the city hummed below, I smiled, not at Jason's fall, but at the horizon I'd claim, a testament to my strength, forged in pain, shining with purpose.